Hello. It is time to tell Archer's birth story. I'm super excited. Here he is. Let me say good morning. Good morning. He's got the wildest wake windows. I guess it's normal for a newborn, but he's like sleeping for like 2 to 3 hours during the day, right at dinner, and then he's like awake at night and awake early in the morning. It's like 6:30. So Archer is, let's see, today's Friday. He's 12 days old. We had our 1 week appointment yesterday. He's already gained like half a pound. So we got that good milk. And we've been doing nothing but breastfeeding all day long, especially because I'm now breastfeeding him and a toddler. Coffee. So I want to first start by saying your girl really struggled with pregnancy, okay? And that's okay. I think you can totally honor how amazing pregnancy is and be so grateful for your babies and still struggle. So I just really struggled. I think a lot of spiritual compression for both of my pregnancies for various different reasons. But this one was very physically trying on me, and I think a lot of that had to do with nursing a toddler and chasing a toddler. So when I was, let's see, right before, like when I was like 37 weeks pregnant, we called my mom and said, please come back, because she had just left for the baby shower like 2 weeks prior. So my mom came out when I was 38 weeks pregnant to help out. And then, of course, by then we assumed she'd be here for the birth. And I was praying, but also not trying to like mess with Archer when he was ready. But I was like, please come early so that she can help after as well. And he came, well, again, early. We don't believe in due dates, right? But he came 39 weeks and 1 day. And Neil came 41 weeks and 1 day. So really, these two pregnancies and labors and everything could not have been more different from one another. So I was having prodromal labor for multiple various days for like 2 weeks before I went into actual labor. And the Tuesday before, so about 5 days before I had him, I had contractions for 12 hours straight. But they never intensified and they never got closer together, but they were just there. And I was like, are we doing this or not? And so then it happened again Friday. And then on Saturday morning, Saturday, September 2nd, I was like, you know what? We're going to just pretend like we're going to be pregnant for the next 3 weeks because I can't be in this headspace of like, are we, aren't we? You know, and that happened last time, of course, with my first. So it's really hard, I think, with your first to stay out of the when are you coming like headspace. And so I was like, you know what? Let's go to the farmer's market. Let's get out of the house. Let's just have a nice day. And so my mom and Neil and I went to the farmer's market. I forget, I think Kirk was working or something. Um, and it was great. And as we're there, I started having contractions, which I was like, whatever, this is probably prodromal labor again. So I wasn't thinking anything of it. I was just pausing and breathing through as I needed to. But they continued. And they continued when we got home, and then we had a little bit of lunch, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to lie down, and this is about 1 o'clock, I think. And so I couldn't lie down, and now I'm restless, and now I'm starting to feel it in my hips and thighs radiating. If you haven't had a baby, then at least maybe you've had cramps that just kind of like radiate down your legs. It kind of felt like that, and I was like, this feels a little different. So then I had like a really big sandwich. And I started walking laps around the pool in the backyard, and I was like, Kirk, I don't know, this might be it. Now I don't want to get psyched out. Now I'm in a mental space of like, we just got to wait and see. But what felt intuitive was like, I'm going to get on my yoga mat. So I got on my mat, and I've been practicing Kundalini yoga. And so it's a lot of seated and, spinal Sufi grind is what it's called. And then cat cows and just a lot of really easy movements. A lot of hip circles, things that are, though, helping baby get into probably a good position and helping me get in the right headspace if this is it. And it just felt really good to sit on my mat. And I did an entire hour long, very easy kind of Kundalini class and just modified where I needed to. These hiccups are real, dude. You want milkies or no? So we just had milkies for like an hour this morning with our brother, which is nice to have a toddler help you with morning engorgement. gotta say. And so after the Kundalini, I was like, I think it's time to retreat. So I went in the bedroom probably about 4 p.m. And at this point, like, they're still happening, the contractions, and they're regular and they're picking up steam a little bit. And I went into the room and I laid my mat out. I turned on my purple lights. I lit some incense. I think I had my like pregnancy card deck. I don't know if I pulled any. I don't remember. But I kind of just set the space. Like I had some crystals out, and I turned on my birth playlist. I had two. I had birth dance for when I was like, okay, we're doing this, right? And then I had like my peaceful get in the zone, like meditation and mantra music. So I went between the two of those and turned them on and just sat in there by myself in the bedroom on the yoga ball, on my mat, meditating, kind of dancing it out. And I was doing that for like 4 hours. I didn't even realize it at the time. And I think I laid down for a little bit. I kind of moved from here to there. And I could hear them making dinner out here. And I knew that it was going to be kind of a wild night for my mom and Neil and Kirk. And Kirk kept checking on me. And then somewhere around, it must have been like 8 or 9 o'clock, like my mom's trying to do bedtime. I was like, dude, this is it. Like they're picking up steam. I've really got to breathe through them now. I really got to pause. And I was texting my doula, of course, throughout this whole thing. Doula and photographer, I think, sorry to warn you again. Like this might be it. I don't know. It might not. And around somewhere between 8 and 9, I think. My timeline's always off, even though I've gotten like the timeline from the team, whatever. So somewhere between 8 and 9, I was talking to my doula and she's like, look, I think it's time, like call the midwives. Like you paid them, like they're professionals, like have them come check and just see what's going on. And so I called and it was April on call. And she said, okay, yeah, it sounds like it's time for labor check. Let's send Barbara over. And Barbara's a nurse that I hadn't met yet. And she came over. I think she got there around 9:45. And I didn't want cervical checks this time. I didn't do like anything this pregnancy. I did like one ultrasound and the blood work, and like that's kind of it. I just felt intuitively like, let me leave this entire pregnancy alone. I didn't drink the tea. I didn't do the primrose oil. I didn't walk on curbs. Like I didn't do any of the prescribed stuff, right? Even though it's like natural. I didn't want to do anything that could like induce, like anything that's like, come on, baby. I was like, I'm trusting my intuition and he's coming when he's ready. And so what felt intuitive to me the last few weeks of my pregnancy was naps and lots of sleep, right? Every day, this Kundalini yoga and swimming. And that's what I did. And when I had cervical checks with Neil, it was a mental chaotic game because I was in labor for 2.5 days, like active labor, before we had to transfer for an emergency C-section. And, I got checked the first day. It's like, oh, you're a 3. And then I got checked, oh, you're a 5. And I was a 5 for like 24 hours. So I didn't want to get psyched out by it. But, at the same time, I was like, okay, fine. Like, let's do a cervical check. And so Barbara did, and I was like, out of 4. And I was like, you know what? At least that's confirmation that I'm actually in labor, that it's not just prodromal labor, right? So that kind of motivated me to be like, all right, cool, we're doing this. Like, we're actually doing this. I can do this. It's fine. And soon thereafter, it was starting to get really intense. So I said, Kirk, it's time for Randy to come, my doula. And so he texted Randy. He texted Lisa, the photographer. And the next couple hours are a blur. I think Lisa got there first. Randy got there a little bit later. But around midnight, everyone was there. And at this point, it was getting kind of intense because I remember having to be like, where are they? Like, Kirk, I need your help. Like, Barbara, I need you. So at that point, they had to like help me with hip squeezes and pushing down my back until everyone got there. And I'm feeling the sensations and surges mostly in the front. I felt them in the back last time. Back labor is no joke. It was a lot more intense. So this time I knew that Archer was right where he was supposed to be. And so these surges were way more manageable. I guess that's the word. And then everyone's there. I think at this point, maybe she did another check. I'm a 5. I'm like, oh, okay. So at some point, my mucus plug came out. Then my water broke. And my water broke. I was like leaning against the bed and I was like, I got so excited because I knew that this was progressing and happening way differently and way faster, and I knew it was going to happen, um, unlike my first. So after my water broke, um, at some point then it was like, let's get you in the tub because you need to relax and open up the rest of the way, because it's like it sounds like you should be, but I wasn't progressing, right? I'd been at a 5 for a while based on how intense the contractions had gotten. So normally they wouldn't necessarily put you in the tub because that could slow it down, but for me they're like, this might relax you. So I think I got in the tub around 1. I'm in a ballpark with that. 1:30. And what happened next, you guys, I cannot believe it. I can't believe it. I can't believe I did it. I can't believe I lived it. I can't believe this happened this way. I immediately was roaring. These contractions were so intense that I was having a hard time surrendering to them at this point. It's like I'm trying to escape my own body. And so let's try for more milk, huh? Hold on. We got hiccups. Shall we help the hiccups? Maybe, maybe not. Okay. But I'm in the tub. I'm holding on for dear life to the edge, to Randy, to whatever. And at this point, my glasses are gone. And I can't see anything without my glasses, you guys. I need my glasses. But at this point, I am gone. I'm in another world. I'm inside. Like Randy had noticed that, like, I'm not even opening my eyes in between at this point, right? And these contractions were so intense. So it's like I was trying to, like I said, escape my body. It's like as soon as they hit, I couldn't find a comfortable position, and I was like roaring through them. And Randy kept reminding me, like, you know, I was like, I can't do this. And she's like, you can. And of course, I remembered from everything I've known, like, okay, the minute that I think I can't do this and it's so intense that it's like, absolutely not, you're almost done, because that's transition. And that's the most intense, but also the shortest part of labor. And I did experience it last time, but by then I was so far gone, 2.5 days into labor. And then we got in an ambulance right away. So the whole, and then I was a 10, and it was like, wow, okay, so that's why it got so intense. But this time it was like, geez, I mean, it's been 12 hours, and like early labor was long and very manageable. So it felt like even shorter. And I was like, this is happening already. And the next thing you know, for me anyway, all of a sudden I could hear them talking about we could have her do the miles circuit. And I was like, in my head, absolutely not. I am not doing that again. I'm not getting out of the tub. I'm not going backwards. I'm not walking curbs. I'm not getting upside down. I'm not doing it. Like, we're having this baby. And I remember thinking this and feeling this and be like, this isn't happening again. Like, we're progressing and it's fine. And somewhere in this same time, I was like, he is crowning. He is right here. I am pushing. I feel like I have to poop. I'm pushing. I'm pooping. And I don't remember their reactions, but I feel like there was a little bit of like, already, like shock a little bit. And there's some of the pictures where you can see Barbara like checking to see, you know, with her flashlight on her phone if he's indeed crowning. And sure enough, I went from a 5 to a 10 in 45 minutes. It was insanely intense, but again, it's like, what cervical check? Why? That told us nothing. All it told us was that I was at a 5 right then. I could have been at a 5 for hours longer, or I could have been at a 10 45 minutes later. And so I kind of wish I would just been like, nah, screw the cervical checks. But at the same time, it's like, whatever. You know, I was in such a good headspace that they didn't really pull me out of it. So I think that's something to be mindful of, is like, if you're in a really good headspace about your birth, maybe have them, like, or if you're really not, then don't. Like, I don't know, in the moment you have to kind of trust your intuition. And I had never even met Barbara. Like, she doesn't know anything about us, our birth plan, how we are, and that kind of got conveyed very quickly. But so here I am at a 10 45 minutes later, and the next, like I was saying, the next couple hours, what happened, you guys, I can't believe it, I pushed him out in 30 minutes. And it didn't even seem like 30 minutes to me. This like hour and a half where I went from 5 to baby born, to me felt like, now when I look back, it felt like 20 minutes or something. But he, like, I could feel his head much lower, and I had felt Neil's head too, but he was not like engaged. He was like up. He was like a, you know, -2 or whatever, but I could feel Archer like right there, like a 2, like crowning. and then it got so intense, and I can't remember if this was like before I was pushing or after, but at one point, like Randy had, she's saying things, she's doing things like hip squeezes, essential oils. She was, you're doing this, and something clicked, and I was like, I need to surrender and give in. And I remember one contraction. Somehow I was able to surrender internally and allow it to happen to me instead of trying to like escape my body. And I immediately felt a wave of peace, and I was able to roll through that one and breathe through it and still vocalize, but not like screaming, like trying to get away, right? And I, in that moment, and more so in hindsight, completely understood the ability to surrender and have like a pain-free birth and a blissful birth and an ecstatic birth. Because I had one contraction that was that way, and it was like in the middle of this chaos, right? The most intense part, and I was able to get there. I wasn't able to stay there. It wasn't my story. I wasn't ready for it. I don't know. It doesn't matter, right? But I experienced it, and I was like, wow, I get it. I get it how you can be in that space, and I get how I'm also reading Yolanda Norris Clark's book, Portal, and she talks about this. I think that's available to every woman. Like, I think it's not something that like you have to be some spiritual guru. Like I just think, but I also think we're all spiritual beings. And I think if you are in a place and you're ready and you choose it and you're available for it, I think everyone could surrender and have that kind of like a blissful birth like that. So I experienced that at one point. And then the next thing I know, I'm like, he's right here. And then I remember screaming, it burns. So this is the Ring of Fire. And this is where some magic happened. As he's like emerging, I can feel the Ring of Fire, and then I could see this. I'm gonna have to like draw a picture someday, but I could see the Ring of Fire in my third eye, in my mind's eye. I could see like him emerging. Obviously, I can't physically see it. Like I'm in a position like leaning over the edge of the birth tub. But it's like I went somewhere else, and we had this connection, and I just knew he was coming. And then on the next contraction, his head came out, and I was prepared to like, wait a bit, head and body. But no, he came all out, all in one big and then and this is some other part of the story too, right? Like Barbara was also doing, she's checking his heart rate, checking mine, vitals, right? And that's another thing that happened last time is Sarah was checking Neil's heart rate, and that's why we transferred, but his heart rate was erratic, like way high, way low, and it was doing that. And that is not normal. Now, there's normal decels during contractions, especially when you're pushing. And so whether that's what happened or not, Barbara was a little concerned. I was not concerned at all. As soon as he came out, my instinct was to, of course, rub him. She was a little concerned. He was a little, his tone was a little off, and whatever. I've seen so many birth videos that babies have taken longer to cry than Archer did, and they were fine. He cried at like 45 seconds. So that's kind of like, that's part of the thing where it's like, I don't know, was it a little medicalized? Maybe. Was she being cautious? Possibly. Maybe because the midwife didn't make it. But I mean, that's, again, this is how fast it happened. So April showed up, I think it was like 7 minutes after. So that's pretty cool. And my mom was here, so I was like, Kirk, go get my mom. So my mom got to come in and meet him right away. And then, she went back to bed. And then, so he was born at 2:52 in the morning, 7 pounds, 8 ounces, and he's already over 8 pounds. And 19 inches, so he's shorter than his brother, so he's chunky. You want the boobies now? He latched right away in the pool, in the birth tub. And so we kind of stayed in there for about an hour because it's like, why mess with a good thing? He's breastfeeding really well. And then we got out, went to bed, took a nap. When we woke up around 10 or 11, after everybody left, like 6, Neil came in to meet his brother. And it was awesome. Like, it was the hardest thing I've ever done, and that definitely didn't think I was going to be able to do it. But and as soon as you think that, then you do it. And then as soon as you do it, you're like, of course I did it. Like, my body was made to do that. Like, it's such a mind game because when you're in it, it seems impossible at times. But again, I think it really depends on your mindset. Because I was so like, I'm not scared of birth. Like, I'm not scared of the pain. Like, we did this for 2.5 days last time. Like, I got this. And so this was like, and my math is off. It was either 14 or 16 hours total. But that includes, again, like 8-9 hours of totally manageable early labor, you know? So the really intense part was like maybe 5 hours total. You're really not going to do the boobies? There you go. Maybe not. But yeah, I just want to, I don't know, I want to convey, I guess, to anybody that sees this that, you know, if you're a good candidate and, you know, would take a medical team to tell you this and whatever, but you can have a vaginal birth after cesarean and you can have it at home, maybe even. I'm 38 years old, you know, healthiest I've ever been, and had a successful home birth after cesarean, which is amazing. And I was actually shocked that the doctors, after I had my C-section, they told me that. They said, oh, you'll be a great candidate for a VBAC. And I was like, wow, I didn't expect to hear that from the team at the hospital, but okay. And then, of course, the entire team at Serenity and Baby's First Day has been so great. And I'm kind of sad that we won't be clients in a couple weeks anymore because we're not having any more babies. So I'll just have to keep teaching yoga there to stay involved. But yeah, it was totally, you know, I was saying to myself that this is not a redemption. These births are two totally separate stories. But it was a redemption for me, you know, like I did this pregnancy my way. I did this birth my way. And I followed my intuition. And I had a successful home birth after a cesarean, and I knew I would. And now I have a completely different perspective on a lot of things in the world because I think women are badass, and I think we are spiritual portals, and I think we are soul initiators. And I mean, the spiritual journey and the compression that I went through pregnancy and then through this to the other side, I feel amazing. I feel like I can do anything. Because that's the hardest thing I've ever done. I don't think there'd be anything harder than rearing a new soul into this earth, right? Pregnancy through that labor and birth. And then here I am in motherhood. This part's easy to me. I don't know. I don't resist it, I guess. And that's kind of how we set our life up, is to not resist it. And I think the lessons I learned is I was resisting pregnancy a lot. So I won't get to experience that again, but there are definitely lessons that will carry on into motherhood to continue to not resist. So, oh, bless you. Oh, baby sneezes. I don't know. It was great. So in the meantime, here is my little guy, Mr. Archer. And if you have any questions about like home birth after C-section, recovering from traumatic birth. I mean, I have wildly crazy experiences. I've experienced a C-section as well as a home birth. Like, it's kind of opposite ends of the spectrum. But if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to talk about it. Yeah, I know this is mostly for my local home birth community. I love you all. I'll be calling on you a lot. I've got 2 babies under 2. My mom just left. So we're going to need lots of play dates. And we'll be showing up at Milk Bar next week or the week after, hopefully. We've got some scheduling conflicts, but we'll figure it out. Love you guys. Bye.